Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. We're at episode number 1659 today, and this should do it for our Galaxy's Edge coverage, at least for the time being, because this has to do with some of the immersive experience aspects of things, which we haven't really talked about yet, including the hotel itself, and we're going to talk about the hotel in a little bit, but we're referencing back to the Barrons article on Galaxy's Edge that was part of the big package that also included an interview with Bob Iger. And the deal with the whole immersive experience thing came on because there was an element of the retail aspect that I read, and I was like, oh, this should be interesting. I, might want to say something about the different retail things they're doing. But ultimately, that was not as interesting, comparatively speaking, as what it really signified. So let me explain a little bit better by talking to you about one of the paragraphs in the article that stood out for me and I thought was rather stunning in its way, and I'll explain why after I actually explain this aspect of it to you. So here is more from Barron's about what we're going to encounter at Galaxy's Edge. In talking about how the folks at Disneyland, at the Imagineers, and also all the Lucasfilm people and whatnot are trying to build the whole storytelling experience and make it even crazier than it's been before, there's this. They say one possibility is that Star Wars merchandise in shops will come in unique packaging that downplays the logos, presumably, of Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back or Resistance or Clone Wars or what have you. Another is that merchandise based on familiar characters will take on new looks. The Imagineers visited the archives at Lucasfilm for early concept art. As a hypothetical example, an artisan figure of a familiar character might look slightly off, with the backstory being that residents of Batuu have never seen that character, so they don't know exactly what the figure should look like. So remember how we talked the other day about the Smuggler's Run experience and about how there would be an interactivity level to it to the point where however you performed as a team in the Smuggler's Run experience, when you came out, you might end up in Oga's canteen and somebody would say to you, the boss doesn't like the way you handle the ship, or maybe something nicer if you do a better job of handling the ship. Well, keep that in mind, because something else that had been revealed separately outside of the Barrons thing a while back suggested that there would be, in the open air marketplace, that there would be a stall operated by a Toydarian. And a Toydarian, if you need the reminder, is like Watto from the Phantom Menace, so that species of Star Wars character. And that character, because it, flies, would ideally be animatronic, and therefore, if you're actually buying something from a Toydarian, then suddenly you're in an immersive shopping experience as well, to some degree at least. And when they talked about the reveal of a Toydarian and the wares that a Toydarian might offer, there were little plush dolls of various characters, and while they look pretty accurate as far as plush dolls go, I guess you could make the case that, maybe they are slightly off by comparison to the real thing. But anyway, that's just part of the whole equation of the immersive shopping experience idea. And there's another bit in here that suggests even more. In the Barrons article, that is. Here's the thing, there will be another shop presided over by Doc Andar, a collector who is briefly mentioned in Solo, a Star Wars story. This character, likely animatronic, will be set apart in a booth from the rest of the staff, not unlike the dispatcher Louis De Palma in the old ABC sitcom Taxi. Cast members might interact with Doc Andar, asking him what he's willing to let certain items go for. First of all, kudos to Jack Howe, or Jack Hoff, however you pronounce your last name, Jack, the writer of the story, for name-checking Louis De Palma in the article. Man, I have a feeling that reference is going to be lost on almost everyone but the folks who saw the original trilogy on the movie screen back in the day. Anyway, that character Doc Andar is actually mentioned briefly by Kira in the scene, and it's just a throwaway line where she and Han reunite on Dryden Voss's yacht and she is served a drink by one of the waitresses there, and she asks if Doc Andar is being attended to, or if somebody's being attentive to him. And then that's right before she and Han toast, and she says, "What should we drink to?" And he says, "Let's drink to and see what happens." A wink, wink. But that's where the Doc Andar reference is. So it's just that little briefest of moments in there. And cast members interacting with an animatronic version of his character who's supposed to be an Ithorian. And if you need the reference there, like Hammerhead in the original Star Wars trilogy and A New Hope, who was in the cantina. Cast members interacting with the animatronic shopkeeper in the middle of the shopping experience. And the fact that some of these, figures that might be of characters in the Star Wars universe might be artisan-like because residents of Batuu don't know what the real characters look like, implying that it's residents of Batuu making these characters, or making this merchandise. So how far are they really bringing this immersive experience? They're making it sound like when you go into Galaxy's Edge, that the cast members, the Disney employees with whom you're going to interact, are going to represent themselves as residents of Batuu to some degree. I mean, I suppose it's not necessarily going, much farther, say, than, if you go to Cinderella's castle and you see Cinderella there, she's not going to tell you, I'm just so-and-so from Oklahoma City playing Cinderella. No, I mean, she's going to be Cinderella and say, well, I'm Cinderella and this is my castle, So I suppose on the one hand, it's not doing anything differently from what Disney does already with its theme parks, but there seems to be something about the level to which that they're taking this that seems like it goes beyond anything that they've done before. And so, I mean, you go to Disney Hollywood Studios in Orlando, and you're not necessarily having this same level of experience. You're walking around and seeing all this cool Star Wars stuff, but it's not like you're in Star Wars. And it seems like their goal is to actually put you in Star Wars as much as humanly possible by the experience that you're going to have in Galaxy's Edge, which just sounds absolutely fascinating, not just from the fan perspective of like, wow, what would it be like? But, standing back and going, how the heck are they going to pull this off? Just that in itself, I think, is tremendously fascinating. So we'll continue to keep an eye on the development of Galaxy's Edge, but I think that's mostly going to do it, with the exception of one other thing I wanted to flag for you, which is kind of ironic in its way because we haven't heard much about it. And so I'll tell you about that in a second. But first, hey, of course, like we say every day, like I say every day, excuse me, this weird we problem, but if you're not subscribing to the show, I hope you will wherever you like to catch it. And I hope you'll consider supporting my delivery of a daily dose of Star Wars joy to you by joining the community at patreon.com/SW7x7. All right, so the last thing I want to tell you about, which is the thing that we're not hearing about, is the hotel. So the last we heard about the hotel, I think you have to go back to November to have heard anything about it, and just the fact that it's supposed to be an immersive experience even at the hotel. So when you go into the Galaxy's Edge related hotel, you're not actually seeing the external environment around you. You're not seeing Anaheim. You're not seeing Orlando. You're seeing space, and you're supposed to be given the idea that you're traveling aboard a luxury yacht that is going to land at Batuu. And so this is, again, part of the whole immersive experience. But there have been updates about the development of Galaxy's Edge, the theme park side of things, but we haven't really heard anything new in a while, in a few months, about the hotel development side of things. And so that is something obviously we'll be keeping you up to date on as well. But it's just rather interesting that with the update on Galaxy's Edge, the theme park, that we didn't get any information about that aspect of it too. I'm not putting on my tinfoil hat and saying there's a conspiracy afoot or anything like that. I'm just saying, I think I'm ready for some new news about that, and I imagine you are too. So when it's out there, we'll be talking about it. And that, my friends, is going to do it for today's episode of the show. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.